Fantastic. Well, yeah, I think we'll just start off, Sean. So thanks again for saying yes to come on to the webinar series. It's great to have you here. We'll just kick off with a simple question. Who are you? What is the WISE Group, and what do you deliver?
Okay, I'm Sean Duffy. I'm the Chief Executive of the WISE Group, and it's a social enterprise that delivers. Best way to describe it is it's civic change across Scotland and North East of England. The main purpose of the organisation is to lift people out of poverty, and it does that through a number of different ways. We provide national rehabilitation programmes for those serving less than 4 years across Scotland. We're a national delivery mechanism for that. There's lots of pre-employment and employment support services for those most disadvantaged and furthest from employment. Those in care experience, substance abuse, homelessness, disability and justice. There is a significant amount of work in fuel poverty, both in terms of energy advocacy and advice. And there are elements of skills and digital skills across Scotland and the North East of England. So it's quite a broad portfolio, but it's all socially focused. So commercially minded, but with a social intent. And I describe us rather than a not-for-profit, a not-for-dividend. So everything we do is to generate a surplus of some form, whether it be cultural, social or financial, but then it's what we do that determines us and our purpose and our values.
So it's a different way of looking at your outputs.
Yes.
So not for dividends with it. You've had a really interesting career. It's been varied. You've worked in the media. You've worked in senior roles. And how have you kind of found the transition? A lot of people ask this if someone's come from the private sector. How have you found the transition from the private sector into this brilliant world of the third sector that we're in just now? And is there any kind of reflections on any of the kind of benefits or differences?
Yeah, no, it's been a long journey. I mean, the starting point for me was way back 2011, 2012 when I joined First Group, and there were some things that happened in my personal life at that point when I was working in the media with one of our children, and he became quite ill. And at that point, I hadn't, I'm ashamed to say this, but I hadn't heard of or had any cause to interact with a thing called the third sector. And through the situation that we found ourselves in with our youngest child, this group of people, this altruistic group of people stepped forward and offered to help our family. And I have to, say that without their help, we probably wouldn't have survived as a family. But that got us thinking that wouldn't it be great that at some point in my career, whatever point it was, that we collectively, through me, could do something that made a family feel the way we felt, give them that sort of support. And as luck would have it, when I joined First Group, one of the things that they were keen on was that you get involved with the third sector. And I joined my first third sector board then, and as a trustee, and just went through that journey. And this role came up, and fortunately enough, I was successful in getting it in terms of transforming the WISE Group and turning it around. But what struck me in my 2.5 years in the sector is that it's much more of an emotional undertaking than the private sector, and the rigour is no less different, but the emotional impact and weight and challenge that comes with some of the situation you find yourself dealing with and exposed to is quite different. So it's much more emotionally challenging, and what it's done is it's made me reflect on myself as a leader and how I go about my work and my business, and it certainly led me to be much more self-aware, and hopefully others will testify to this, much more emotionally intelligent.
And that's that thing about an emotional connection to working in the third sector and having value for what you do. We're going through COVID-19 at the moment, and it's having a massive impact on lots of businesses and lots of third sector organisations in the way that they operate and the way they deliver their services. I spoke to someone earlier on in the week about furloughing and the effect that that had within the staff team, because actually lots of people that are in the third sector, they derive a sense of value and purpose from what they're doing, and this person was saying you're not only I guess taking them away from the job, you're taking them away from a sense of purpose. Can you tell me your experiences with managing teams of people, working with teams of people, leading teams of people through COVID-19? What impacts you've seen in the team, and how you've managed that?
It's been, I think I'd start off with saying, as I say in most calls that we have, even internally or externally, no one has a playbook for this. You can't go to a drawer and pull out the manual of when this was done previously. You can't phone up someone and say, see, when this happened, what did you do? So we're all, I think partly we all need to just get comfortable and used to the fact that we're all making it up as we go along in some respects, and be okay with that. It's okay to admit that you don't have a plan, you know, and kind of normal circumstances. So that was I suppose a starting point for me, was to almost to set out to our colleagues, of 220 of them, say, look, before we start off here, there isn't a rule book that we can go and refer to, but there's two things that we've got to be very, very clear about, that we'll focus on, and we'll always benchmark our decisions against. One is, and foremost in our mind, is our colleague well-being and safety, and the second one is the sustainability of the enterprise, and where at all possible, making sure people have got a job to come back to. So being very, very clear. You know, I think, Kieran, the last time you and I talked, I talked about this kind of quirky strategy that I employ, the kind of catchphrase approach, the Roy Walker catchphrase game of say what you see. And you know, and I think your colleagues deserve the respectful candour at times like this. It's ambiguity that is the enemy, almost in some respects. So been very, very clear about where we found ourselves and what we were facing, and what we were benchmarking each decision and each day and each element of focus against was really, really important. And that helped, I suppose, in some ways calm people down. And what is quite a you know, let's not forget, it's an appalling situation we find ourselves in. And we found ourselves, you know, having put in a strategy about 18 months ago, we found ourselves in a situation that we were able to pivot to a work at home model within 24 hours for over 200 people. And I was able to say to our colleagues on various calls, we're not here by luck, we're here by design. So, you know, maybe not, we didn't design it to be in response to a situation like this, but the way in which we've been able to pivot and react is by design, using technology as an enabler. So that was, you know, I'll not mislead you and say that it wasn't uncomfortable. It was, because you can create a strategy, you can make it look great, you can articulate it as better than anyone else, until it's tested, like it's getting tested just now. You don't really know how good it is. And I'm pleased to say, thus far we're passing the test, but who knows what the test is going to be like next week and the week after. So I think you know, that level of candour and complete transparency, and being clear about what you're focusing on, why you're focusing on it, and what you're trying to do has been really, really important. Also, helping people understand that through the focus on well-being, it's incredibly important that they take personal responsibility for their own well-being. We put things in place to support them, but they've got to take that personal responsibility for their well-being and focus on the things that you can influence. Focus on the things that you've got control over or an influence over, and stay out of the ring, for want of a better expression, with the things that you can't, because that's a waste of your emotional resources. So that's been a relentless focus for us. The other thing as well is recognising that under stress, people tend to judge the messenger before they judge the message.
Sure.
So I think making sure that you've got the right person articulating certain messages was really, really important, because they judge who they're hearing it from first under stress rather than what they're hearing. So just trying to get the basics in place, and focus on the basic principles, is keeping our guys safe and well, and focusing on sustainability has helped us thus far.
So knowing that the employer is going to have a job there for you at the end, and also take care of you, it's important messages. It's going to, society will change. We've been speaking about this. Communities will change. The WISE Group, you work with people who are coming from prison, who have been liberated, and they're coming into communities which are changing, obviously, as we know it. There are people who are unemployed that you support into jobs, and also you work with people that are affected by fuel poverty. So lots of really, I guess, big kind of social issues. With them, when you're thinking about, I'm very interested in support people coming from prison and into what have you seen, and what kind of changes to some of your services have you implemented, and have you had to think about, as much as we can, we don't have a crystal ball, but basically how they might adapt to the world as we know at the moment?
Well, I think I'll focus on the one around the justice system. I think that's probably the easiest one to talk about, because if you think about, we were on track. 80% of Scotland's prison population are eligible to, I'm going to say, benefit from the support provision that we have in place through different criteria. And that was before this crisis came upon us, and that's largely based on a face-to-face, person-to-person mentoring approach around about identified needs. So all of a sudden, that model's completely eviscerated because of social distancing, lack of access, etc. But what the teams had done, and actually using a lot of the technology investment that we'd used, they'd flipped the entire model with Scottish Prison Service to one that was remote and technically based. And what we've seen is actually we've had a 95% uplift in the programme in the first 4 weeks. So it just shows that through the heritage approach that I'm going to say had to take, because that was the way in which the service was designed, or we were taking because of the way the service was designed. That necessity is the mother of all inventions, because you could no longer take that approach. You had to find another way of making sure that the support provision was put in place and remained in place in an effective way, especially in support of the potential early release moves from government to reduce the prison population. So we came up with the idea was the prison service of email a prisoner, writing to liberation addresses, etc., getting prepaid mobile phones, programme numbers, signposting to statutory services, using technology like this to engage, etc., and putting all of that package in place. And as I say, we've seen a 94% uplift in that support provision. So it's been pleasing to see how quickly we've adapted to it. Part of the challenge is going to be on the other side of that now, in terms of the civic structures. What we're going to see is if you look at unemployment, for example. So the main focus for any of the government's flagship programmes in unemployment was those who were furthest removed from a sustainable future. Therefore, they've come up with the manifesto commitment of no one left behind. But what you have now is you have an influx of immediately employable, experienced, motivated people into the unemployment market. And what they've done, or what they're likely to do, is they're likely to displace those who were already unemployed further away from employment. And also, as the economy changes, those, dare I say, entry-level jobs or traditional jobs where you could bring people in to that route, those are potentially no longer going to be there. So you've got a whole change in what that looks like in terms of displacement. The other thing as well is, previously, I suppose geography had a cost in terms of proximity to a job. And I know that you and I have talked about this previously. That argument's significantly diminished now, whereas geography no longer has a cost, arguably, where proximity to jobs or markets is no longer as challenging or no longer as alien to people as it once may have been, because we've all been forced into a scenario where we're working remotely, flexibly, and with agility. You know, I saw a stat yesterday where RBS have 50,000 people working from home at the moment.
50,000 people.
50,000 people working from home. Now, you know, the challenge that this is going to present to heritage business models, heritage operating models is incredible. Absolutely incredible. You know, I can imagine there'll be people in the property market. Not Susan, I know Susan's on, not Susan. But there'll be people in the property market, the traditional property market, thinking about their office rental rates. Saying, well, actually, our organisation is looking at one of the largest costs outside of people and saying, actually, we can operate like this without a large office space or a fixed office space. And, you know, are people looking at that just now? You know, because I think where we find ourselves is the rules that we have are written. The rules that we have are written for another era, not for the era we're in right now.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, you know, the thing that we're certainly trying to do is what's right to do is what works today, not what did we do previously, and take this as an opportunity, you know, to look at. It's almost like to try and reimagine your enterprise for the future.
Yeah.
Because we've got that opportunity. It's scary. No, you know, it's no doubt about it. It's scary, but it's scary in a good way, because, you know, embracing the reality of there is no going back to where we were. No idea what the forward projection looks like, but there is no going back to where we were. And at least if we open our mind to the possibilities of that changed environment, you know, of that displacement, of the change in statutory service provision in local authorities. I mean, I certainly think that community wealth building is going to be something that comes to more of the fore in the future. You know, people in place. I think, you know, what Scottish Enterprise had started to do is something that's likely to come to the fore more, where the private sector and the public sector will be encouraged more to be the enablers and the levers and the asset owners at a local level to try and reinvigorate local economies, as opposed to it being large kind of central government driven economic stimulus. So that people in place thing, certainly from my perspective, I think is going to be much more prevalent as we go forward, more localisation.
And on that, so you're a trustee of SCVO, you're on a few various boards, so Strathclyde Business School. SCVO, I think, have been amazing in the response to this, and on the back of, we've been working on the Third Sector Resilience Fund, and they've responded very quickly with lots of information, lots of support and advice. For the third sector, as we know it, it's a challenging time, and it'll change the way potentially the third sector operates in terms of delivering services and even funding. The social enterprise model, I guess, is something that we'll be looking at more and more, are just ways of making organisations even more sustainable. From your point of view, in terms of the social enterprise, in terms of the business model of the WISE Group, what are the kind of changes in the model that you might make following COVID? And do you think, just generally within the third sector, obviously you're just speaking for yourself, but that there are opportunities but also challenges going ahead?
I think certainly. So I take the WISE Group first. I mean, we've embarked on a whole kind of scenario planning exercise now. With the leadership team and the board, and just to start imagining things like, okay, so we don't have an office. What does that look like? Now, as coincidence would have it, I put our headquarters up for sale just before the COVID-19 crisis.
I saw.
And that was to move to a different place, because the question I asked myself and the leadership team was, actually, what part does the building play in the operating model? And the answer is it doesn't. So when you think about, you've got this thing that costs this amount of money.
Yep.
What part does it play? So it's come back to everything has to have a value. So, we're looking at that. What part does it play in the model? The point about geography not having a cost anymore is something else where you're kind of, I suppose, your conditioned bias thought is always, well, we can't go there because we don't have an office there. We can't do that there because we don't have people there. So if you take that to its logical conclusion about geography not having a cost, we could have people working, we could have colleagues working for the Wise Group who live and work from London.
Yep.
But deliver services somewhere else.
So it opens up the market.
It's starting to look at that, because what we do as opposed to what others do is we don't create a physical product. So I suppose in a way that gives us much more flexibility. So that's and we're very much in that's thinking is very much in its infancy just now, but we've got to be very, very I suppose nimble on our feet with that, and one of the things that we're trying to do is catalogue what we're doing just now and the things that are working for us, and also catalogue the things that are not working for us, so that we've got a record of this when we come out of the, I suppose, the burning platform piece of it, where we find ourselves just now, where each day you're going to the TV at 12:30 to hear what the First Minister says, and then at 5 o'clock to hear what the Prime Minister says, and then say, well, what does that mean for me, and what does it mean for our colleagues, what does it mean for our customers? At some point that's going to dissipate. So we're trying to do a bit of work in advance of that. But there's two things, building and geography. For us.
A good question is, what do you think about the impact of the loss of human interaction as we know it, and long-term with technology?
I think it's quite interesting that, because one of the things that certainly I've been looking at just now, and if any of my team are on this, apologies in advance, because you're going to hear it first on this. One of the things that we're thinking about just now is as you profile the people you work with, this type of situation works for some people. I mean, if you're an introvert, you're running towards this. This is absolutely manna from heaven for you. If you're an extrovert, this is excruciating, right? Yeah. And part of the thing I've been thinking about is understanding my team and my colleagues better, to understand, actually, are you loving this or are you hating this? And understand that the impact of that circumstance on you, given the type of person you are. Because if you're an extrovert, you draw your energy from being around people and interaction. If you're an introvert, you draw your energy from being alone. And if you're not, so I think that's one part. I mean, the other part as well is no doubt Susan's alluding to is at the other side of the equation, the people you support. What about that? And that's really, really important, because where we find ourselves as well is, I think the scenario, the COVID-19 scenario, has brought to the fore the level of digital exclusion we have in the country.
And
it wasn't truly understood, not just in who owns devices and who's technically literate, but who has good broadband. And we're finding that in terms of a lot of people we work with. So what we're having to do is work with funders and partners to say, we need to put technology in people's hands and involve them in learning how to use this, so that they retain some level of interaction, because otherwise they're just going to become detached. So there's a structural challenge to that isolation, and then there's I suppose there's a normalisation as well. There's people going to have to get used to that. But it's definitely laid bare the level of digital exclusion.
It's definitely it's highlighted things that once seemed maybe as a nice to have overnight have been pretty quickly things which are imperative to interacting with people. As a just kind of final question. So you're obviously thinking about lots of people within your team. You're thinking about your customers that you support. As a leader, how do you get yourself through this? How are you looking after yourself? What's your routine? What's your kind of your way to try and keep yourself steady through COVID?
not drink. But probably the first one of the ones.
Right.
It's amazing how when you're in this situation, you find yourself your head kind of cuts into holiday mode at some point during the day, later on in the day. Yeah. But no, on a serious note, it's structure. For me, it's structure. Albeit it might not look at it, but I dress to go to work, and I change at the end of work, because I think it's got to have a start and an end. My day. I find myself, I recently have suffered a wee bit for not being able to sleep, because I've got kind of sensory overload with looking at screens and being on technology all day, so trying to limit that as much as possible. Exercise is a huge part of it. You know, Stephanie, my wife and I, we went to a bespoke gym in the morning, More Than Fitness, each day, and those guys are doing that. Those two guys, they do Zoom classes online, so we do a lot of that now, and so much so actually the guys have got them on board to do stuff with the Wise Group as well, because of the wellbeing piece. So we do a lot of that as well. But I think definitely structure, and also making sure that the weekends feel like the weekends. Albeit you can't go for dinner, can't go to pubs and all, but make sure the weekends feel like the weekends. Avoiding overworking, because it's easy to sit down and not, you know, before you know it's 5 or 6 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So I've kind of chunked my days off into 9:30 to 10 past 10, 10:30 to 10 past 11, 11:30 to 10 past 12, that sort of thing, and just trying to give myself a bit of structure. It's almost like having a school timetable.
Yeah, you're right. It's easy to overwork, actually, easy to fill your time with being on screens constantly, and it's pretty exhausting.
Back-to-back Zoom calls is not good for your mental health.
Not brilliant at all. Well, thank you. Thanks very much for your time. It's just started hailstoning here. I don't know what the weather's like. I'll let you see the extent of it. But yeah, thanks for your time today. It's been really interesting chatting to you, and it was nice to speak to you actually last week prior to this, and learn about the approach you were taking with your team. Like you said before, even having the fitness classes for people within your team, and putting them first.
And those kick off next week, the fitness classes, and it's not just on that. Everything that we've done from a wellbeing perspective is for our team's families, not just for them. It's really, really important, because if we can look after the families as well as them, we'll you know, you can't pour from an empty cup, so we'll get through it that way.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Sean. Pleasure to speak to you.
Thanks very much, Kieran.
I hope to speak to you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
Okay, thanks. Bye now.
Bye.